Everyone, welcome back to another installment of ranking everything I watched in the previous month. A couple weeks into October now, but I'm not stopping anytime soon. I really enjoy doing these videos, and essentially it's a fun excuse to talk about all the movies I watched last month. The ranking, at the end of the day, it's secondary, and yeah, like I enjoy ranking things, and I definitely put thought into my rankings, and it's not just randomized, but I say time and time again, my rankings could change within a month or two. It could change within a day or two on a lot of these, especially when you get into a bunch of different options and it's like, is this one really two or three? Sometimes there's a whole range of movies that could be rearranged in my mind. And if I even go back to earlier in the year, there's plenty I would shift around already. So this is just on a kind of fresh reaction basis, within a month since watching them, basically. This is how I feel. And I will do an end of the year video, just like a big going through all the movies, and that's going to be pretty epic because I've watched more movies than I've ever watched in my life. So, yeah, this month in particular, a big one. The biggest since I think probably my first ranking, where I had like 20 something movies back when it was award season earlier in the year. So I was watching a lot of those. But I've watched 19 movies this month. If you're new and haven't seen one of these before, I want you to know it's completely spoiler free. I won't spoil anything about the specific plot or anything of these movies because I want you to be able to watch it, obviously, and not have to be worried about stopping or skipping when any given movie comes up. You don't even know what movies are coming up necessarily. So I want that to be, just a way for me to share my thoughts. And you let me know if you agree or disagree with my placement of any of these, or if you jive with some of these more than others. I would be very curious. So this is not 2025 released movies. There are obviously a good amount of those mixed in, but it is movies I've watched for the first time in 2025 in this month. So that's why you get a random mix. So it's an arbitrary ranking of movies I just happened to watch in the month of September. So I wouldn't take them to heart too much, but definitely there's a big difference between number 19 and number 1, that's for sure. I do also want to preface going into this month. This was the first month where I started kind of doing a new process for myself in movie watching. You'll see a mix of different things each month. You'll see there are some movies that come from channel Tarkaron that I do, Tarqaron, with my friend Alec. And so there's either like we'll be going through movie series or completely randomized movies over there, or just things you plan to review in general. Those will be mixed in here or there when I'd watch them. So that's one thing. But then on my own, I've been making a conscious effort this year to try to keep up with 2025 releases as much as possible. And even the ones that I missed in theaters, I put them on my list of ones to get to. So now I've started a process that I'm pretty comfortable with, which is more or less alternating between watching a 2025 released movie that I missed, as well as a random other movie on my watch list in general. So sometimes it is completely random. A lot of them were for this month in particular, so I'll bring that up when it's appropriate. But sometimes it's just when I choose, and then I also keep sequels to movies I've watched in the mix as well. So if I watch a random movie from my watch list and then there's a sequel I want to watch as well, I keep that as an option ongoing as well to throw in the mix at any time. And so it just helps to diversify as well as keep on that 2025 list to make sure I'm not like, once award season comes, I don't have like 50 movies to watch again. And my goal this year is, instead of last time, it was just to... Last time I had watched all the Best Picture nominees and then all the movies that have any acting nominees in them. And that ended up covering a wide range of the nominees for sure. This time specifically, I want to watch every nominee. That's my goal, if it's possible. I know sometimes there's a couple movies that are really hard to access, unfortunately, but that's my goal. And so I'm going to try to get as many of them within the year as possible, so I can kind of include them in my year in review videos, but also, of course, like last year, the first couple months, I'll be using to clean up any I missed as well. So yeah, with all that being said, number 19, Back to School. This is a very generic title for a movie I'm sure you haven't heard of. It's a French film on Netflix, 2019 film. Um, Not a super mainstream film as far as I know. I don't know if in France it's different, but it's essentially very reminiscent of early 2000s, like raunchy humor type movies, and that don't have too much value. Except this one didn't even have like much of the comedic element. This is one that we watched for Tarkron from a series called Chance Time, where we spin this wheel back here full of completely randomized movies that we had no say in whatsoever. And this is the one that came up. So, yeah, for what it's worth, it's one of those, I never would have picked on my own. Never would have known it existed on my own type of movies. So, it's not great. Obviously, it's number 19 on a list of 19 films. Again, with the ranking, it doesn't mean that much. It could be 18 amazing or 19 amazing movies for all you know. It's all 19 are amazing, and it just happens to be the ranking. But in this case, yeah, this is one of the bad ones. You can check out a review of that where we go pretty in depth on Tarkaron. What will always be remembered for me is the nice plot twist at the end of this movie. That's the big thing that will always stick out in my mind, and that's about it. Other than that, it's like some uncomfortable humor, and then otherwise just humor that doesn't really work, and a bunch of adults. Essentially, they're at their middle school reunion, which I don't know if that's a French thing to do. They're at their middle school reunion, and they're just like acting completely immature, acting like they're back in their cliques from middle school, and they're just like going about their day, or like just out in this middle school. They have full reign of the school, and they're just doing stupid stuff. There's a whole Revenge of the Nerds plot in there. It's like very weird, and yeah, not super likable characters either. You don't really like any of the characters in any meaningful way. So number 19, there it is. Number 18, Honey Don't. This is a movie. The name of this movie is so funny, Honey Don't, because every time without fail, whenever I talk about this movie, I'm like, honey, don't go watch this movie. That's what I would say to anyone who asks if they should watch this movie. And it's bizarre. I watched it purely for Margaret Qualley and Aubrey Plaza. They're just two actresses I enjoy. That's the only reason I really wanted to watch it. Chris Evans is in there as well, and there's a couple others, but that was really about it. That was the only motivation. In addition to me just trying to watch a lot of 2025 movies in general, but that's what pushed me to want to see it in theaters. Even when I started hearing some bad reviews coming in on it, I was like, all right, I don't want to hear too much. So I went in, and wow, I've never seen a movie quite like it, where I couldn't, after I watched the movies, I couldn't tell you what just happened. I don't even know what the point of anything was. I couldn't explain it to someone if I tried. My girlfriend and I, having watched it together, couldn't really explain it to each other. It's just like one of those. It was weird. It wasn't weird. I like weird. It was just kind of stupid and pointless, and I didn't get the point behind it. It's directed by Ethan Coen, one of the Coen brothers, and I've loved a lot of Coen brothers films in the past, but it's like, you split them up. Now I got Ethan doing this, and it's like, damn, okay, maybe stick to the brothers. This is crazy. Yeah, it was honestly just a big waste of time. So that's all I have to say about it. Just, I wouldn't waste your time. Number 17, A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. This is one, when I saw the trailer initially, I was skeptical. It definitely felt like one of those, we're going to try to do super grandiose ideas, talking about big, like, life concepts, kind of like a Life of Chuck type of movie, where you're taking a thoughtful approach to life and thinking about life and how the world works. That kind of grand movie. It turned out to be, it was like a romance with that kind of element mixed in. And it was honestly kind of a snooze fest. That was my biggest problem with it. it seemed like a movie that very much wanted to be profound, and you could tell with how it was made. And it's like I do like those movies if they hit. If they don't, this can ended up being unbelievably boring. I was actually shocked because I don't know how you make Margot Robbie boring, but they did, and the romance really did nothing for me, and that seemed like one of the more key elements of it. And still, yeah, it fell flat for me for sure. Number 16, Alita Battle Angel. This is a 2019 film. This is actually, again, from Tarkaron. We do a monthly movie night, which is where we alternate picking the movie. So this was Alex's pick for the movie in September, and just didn't work for me. Honestly, it felt, my first reaction when watching was like, man, that was pretty mid. And honestly, I was terrified by Alita's look. That was a big thing. It was shocking. It was distracting to me the whole movie. I'm sorry if that's superficial, but it's just very off-putting. One of those things where it's just a layer of discomfort every time I saw her. I did not find her to be cute or, the face of an angel or whatever they say in that line in the movie. I did not get that impression at all. And even she has some creepy behavior herself when it comes to their relationship, which again didn't matter. Back-to-back romance that doesn't work for me, of course. The highlight of the movie is the choreography of it. Like, it's some fun choreography. The action is a little fun, but again, nothing to write home about overall. They also leaned a little too much into a hypothetical sequel that never happened, because you don't even get a satisfying resolution to this film. It's like kind of like a call to war at the end, and then it's just like cut to black, almost like, they could have said to be continued, and that would have made sense. And then it's just like, okay, never continued. But yeah, I'm not a fan of movies that do that in general, but obviously if you don't know you're going to get a sequel, it's even worse that to go all in hoping that's the case, and then you don't have a satisfying product by itself. So it was pretty mid overall. Unfortunately, didn't work for me, but I could totally see myself enjoying the manga or the graphic novels. Was it manga? I can see myself enjoying that more, because I feel like it would, be less off-putting to me than seeing it on the big screen. Well, not on the big screen, on a screen. Number 15, Dogman. This is a film that released in 2025, and another one of those movies where definitely left to my own devices, I wouldn't have watched this movie. I just, it's on my master list of 2025 movies, and I'm going through. It was one of those early, I think it was early on this year as well. One I had no interest in, from the trailer, just felt like very cringy writing, childish. And ultimately what I got was, it wasn't cringy, but it just wasn't intended for adults. The best animated films are ones that work for both and have writing that appeal to both adults and children. This one was much more so on the children side of things, whereas the writing was overall pretty childish, the humor was pretty childish, and so everything with that left it to be not a spectacular film. I don't think it was a bad film at all, and it looked pretty cool. It's got the graphic novel style to it, because I think that's where Dogman came from. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not going to rise much higher than that. And for me as an adult watching the film, but I think kids would get a kick out of it for sure. And it's got a nice message to it. So absolutely, I wouldn't mind showing my nephew or my niece or any kids this movie. I would recommend it to them. But there are better children films for sure, animated films. Number 14, The Long Walk. This is a 2025 film that I watched in theaters. I guess I should note specifically where I watched certain things. I should be more clear about making that distinction. This one is one of those weird ones where, unfortunately, I feel like there's a disconnect between a lot of what the public feels about this film and how I felt. And I expected to kind of be in a similar area as a lot of the reception has been, which is like, man, this hit me hard. Like, this film was heavy, it was emotional, and it really got me. That's what I was hoping for. And that's what I kind of expected going into, but it didn't really work for me too much. Honestly, I thought it was boring. Again, a lot of my biggest negatives for films these days is like, man, it's just boring. And at the end of the day, it was a long ass walk. They were just walking and talking for a long time. And some of the films were actually, some of the deaths were actually dumb. Like, they didn't really work for me. Our two main characters are obviously the heart of the film. They're the best thing of the film. I enjoyed their performance and their dynamic for sure. But other than that, the other characters are kind of pretty insufferable. I wasn't a huge fan of how they wrote some of these deaths and stuff. It didn't really feel like, I didn't feel the weight of them as much as I expected. There's a distinct Hunger Games vibe to this, and I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I remember thinking that and then realizing after the fact the director had directed a couple of the Hunger Games films, if not all of them. And so that makes perfect sense. But I just, the Hunger Games is more compelling than this. I was more emotionally invested in that than this. So, I did see a couple people had similar feelings to me about it, where it didn't work as much. But overall, it seems to be received quite well, and predominantly is more on that side of like, man, this was heavy, and it was, and it seemed to work for them. So there you go. For what it's worth, I wanted it to work. It's not even a movie I came in thinking it would be, or having heard negative things about. So for whatever reason, it just didn't click. Number 13, Tron. I'm talking the original 1982 Tron here. This is actually a series we started on Tarkaron this month. I watched this one right at the end of September. So the other two Tron films will end up in next month's ranking. But the original didn't really work for me. It was kind of a mess. The aesthetic and the vibes, the music, all of that, that's what make the movie. That's really the whole identity of the film. Other than that, it doesn't really work for me. The plot's not super compelling, though it was still doing things that were much more unique at the time than obviously they would be today. But even that being said, it lost me a bit in the middle there. It's like the characters really weren't compelling at all either. Jeff Bridges is the best of it, but even outside of that, the performances were not great by any means. All really rote delivery, very samey, and none of them stand out really. You don't have any sort of investment in the characters, which is what I want. It's what I live for. Honestly, I'm grading with a curve, even putting it at this point. I don't know if I would choose to watch it over the last few films that I just named, but I graded on a bit of a curve, just because production-wise, it does do some really innovative things. If you look into the behind the scenes of it, there's some cool stuff where they had to go through some like painstaking processes just to pull off some of the what is now pretty dated technology of the film. And so I definitely respect that, and for what it did and the vibes, I graded a bit of a curve, but it still was not going to go much higher than this for me. This kind of peaks right here, still on very much the bottom half. Number 12, Mamma Mia. This is the 2008 film that I watched on, what did I watch it on? Netflix. This was one that came up, it was on my big watch list, which has a few hundred movies on it. It came up completely randomly, so I'm like, why not? I'm down for a fun musical whenever. And I was kind of shocked after I watched this movie and it came on the Letterboxd to see just how highly some people reviewed this film. I don't think it's a great film at all. I think it's decent, but the film itself is nothing to write home about if we're being objective about it as much as possible. I don't like to say pretentiously, like, if we're being objective about it, this is absolutely what it is. But if I'm trying my best to be objective, that's how I come into it. And I didn't think it was a great film. It was very dramatic, over the top, almost like a melodrama, and how everything comes together. But as a film, it's not like super. It's not perfect. And honestly, I know it's an ABBA. A lot of ABBA music is the whole point of the film. But for me, a lot of the music wasn't great. There are a couple fun, really fun tracks, obviously, which those are some of the more memorable scenes of the film, and that's a lot of fun. Ultimately, the movie's fun, so I'm not too mad at it. It's not. I don't think it's horrible by any means. I just don't think it's anything spectacular. And maybe on a rewatch, I'll enjoy it more. I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. Meryl Streep is great. She was great in it, and Amanda. I always used to say Seyfried, but then I'm pretty sure I heard it was Seyfried. Is it Seyfried? Amanda Seyfried? So let me know which one it actually is. But she was great as well, just very charming. But Meryl Streep's the heart of the film for sure, and it really is some fun shenanigans you get up to. There's a couple actors in here that I did not expect to see, and they're a lot of fun too. The concept of the film is a recipe for just fun and awkward moments to happen, and you definitely get that. So you're gonna enjoy it if you want something like that. But beyond that, it's pretty service level, and the resolution is more silly than anything. It wasn't super satisfying resolution. It was just kind of silly, and it's like, oh, of course, with their dramatic ass. Of course, that's how they would resolve this. Number 11, Paprika. This is a 2006 animated film in the anime style, which has a bit of a reputation to it for being this very unique style. Even after I just watched this for the first time, randomly, I went, or just on scrolling Twitter, I had seen a clip of this and like, man, animation used to be crazy, or some generic ass post of a scene from this, but it's one of the most standout scene of the film, perhaps, where the hand goes in underneath the skin and it's going all up in there, and it's pretty gnarly to watch. That was literally one of the standouts that I wrote about on my Letterboxd review. I believe I made note of it there, but it's definitely one that stood out to me at the time. This is a film where it's like, it was good. I enjoyed it for just like the visual, like dream-like sequences of it all. It's a cool concept, but it's kind of unclear what I'm supposed to be taking away from it. This is one where I specifically think it would benefit from a rewatch, and maybe there's more I could glean from it, because as it stood, I was like kind of confused by overall what was the point and what we're supposed to take away from it. But I did still enjoy it. I know that it felt like a one feature-length acid trip, which, as far as animation goes, can lead to some fun results, which I think it did. But overall, I can't put it too much higher than this because I'm still so unsure of it. But I think with a rewatch, I could have more appreciation of it for sure. Really cool music track to come. It's called Parade. Is a little theme that they use throughout the film, and I think it's really perfectly sums up the vibe and the feeling of the film, and it's a really nice touch. It elevates the film for sure. Number 10, The Thursday Murder Club. Now, this is a film that released in 2025 on Netflix, and it was directed by Chris Columbus. Chris Columbus, I've gained more and more of an appreciation for. He's directed some of a wide range of really iconic films, honestly. Looking back through his catalog, I was watching one of those videos, forget what it is. Is it like Vanity Fair or one of those, channels that has directors and actors go through their careers? He was going through some of his most iconic films, and that just really stood out to me. I'm like, okay, now I really want to watch this new movie of his, The Thursday Murder Club. And I enjoyed it. I don't think it was anything amazing, but I still definitely enjoyed it. I think some of the choices they make in the plot and how it's resolved is a bit questionable, I would say, without going into much detail. Like, I don't really know if it hits in the way they intend it to. So questionable decisions here and there, but I did enjoy it overall. I think it's kind of like a cozy, nice little vibe to it, even if it is about murder. I feel like you never get a cast of predominantly elder actors and actresses, like all in their 60s, 70s, and older. Like, that's pretty unique, and I enjoyed the vibe because you have some reputable, solid actors to carry this film, and you just never see that. That was really cool. Just me just rattle off some of the people that are involved: Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, Ben Kingsley, Celia Imrie, David Tennant, Jonathan Pryce. Wow, yeah, just those right there. They're the biggest ones of the film, essentially in that order. But yeah, those names right there. They're all in their at least 70s, I think, all of them probably. Yeah, they're all at least in their 70s, so that's so unique, and I actually enjoyed that a lot. It was like a refreshing film for that reason alone, and it's great actors and actresses. So unique vibe to it, and yeah, I enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, it's not one I have a lot of. It doesn't have like a ton of depth to it, or one that it was probably going to sit with me too much after the film. It's just a fun time, and that's about it. You can't be mad at that. Number 9, The Friend. This is the film, it's one of those generic names, The Friend. If you just hear The Friend, you might not know what it is. You still might not know. It's very much more like it was a limited release type of film, where it's not like it was on the big screen everywhere. I remember even at the time when I first saw it come out, it was in some of us like smaller theaters, and I considered going, didn't end up doing it, so I ended up watching this on streaming now. It's available on Paramount Plus, is where I watched it. But if you had seen this film advertising or anything like that, you'll know it from the Great Dane named Apollo, who is very prominently posted on the posters and things like that. Because he's the heart of the film. Unironically, maybe the best performance of the film is Apollo. A couple great dog actors out there now, really, really making a name for themselves, and Apollo is one of them. Bing is the name of the dog. Let me make that known. Bing is making a name for himself as Apollo. But at the end of the day, it's a very intimate vibe to it. It's like you have the main actress and then maybe one or two other characters in the mix. But other than that, it's not like huge sets with tons of people. We're talking like apartment buildings, walking on the sidewalk, parks, sets like that. So it's very intimate, which is the vibe of the film is going for. It's very much. I don't think it's perfect. I think the pacing of the film was quite slow, honestly, but I still enjoyed it. And I think its simplicity really actually lends itself to a solid film that's pretty effective at tackling a couple of meaningful subjects. It's hard to even say because with how the movie's presented, I don't even want to say particularly what the subjects are that it goes into, because it's not really, you wouldn't know that just from looking at it. So I'll just say it tackles a couple of meaningful subjects really well and does it in a tactful way and an effective way. And it actually quite resonated with me. I thought it was a pretty sweet film. And while it's not going to be my list of like my favorites of all time, I do think it was solid. If they had like tightened up the pacing a little bit, maybe made it a little shorter, I think we would be right there in like really good territory. But with all that being said, I think ultimately ends up being just a good film with sweet messaging behind it, and it's effective in its simplicity. Number 8, Friendship. That's right, The Friend and Friendship, back to back. I think I actually watched these back to back too, if I'm not mistaken. We're very close to each other. But a completely different vibe for a film, I'll say that much. It's essentially, I haven't seen his sketches before, but from what I've heard, and I totally get that impression, that I could totally see that, is that it's essentially a Tim Robinson sketch extended. And yeah, I felt that. It's a very particular type of humor that you can tell is pretty distinct to Tim Robinson. So it's either going to work for you or it's not. There's really no in between. It's bizarre. It's awkward. It's very awkward intentionally. It's cringy. It's that kind of thing. It's dry at times. And it shines on those moments of cringe and awkwardness. It really uses that. It leverages that in the film, and how the story progresses. But it's Paul Rudd is the other big name here for Friendship. Kate Mara plays off of Tim Robinson most of the time, but Paul Rudd as well, and it's fascinating. It's a fascinating film because it's like comedic, but at the same time very depressing, and it balances the two. And you can never have a comedic moment without there being an underlying layer of that depressing nature it's baked into everything. It's really quite sad, and it's like everything's through our main I almost said Craig Robinson because the character's name is Craig, and Tim Robinson's the actor. Everything's through Craig's eyes, so there's no downtime, there's no escape from the cringe, the awkwardness. You're there. That's all you know. All right? He's not just a side character. It's just that is the nature of the film, and for better or for worse. There was actually, after watching this, for what is like on the surface supposed to be a comedy, after I watched it, I was like, actually affected me in a negative way emotionally. Like, after, like, it was just like so unsettling, the feeling I had from it. It was quite unique, and you're either here for it or you aren't. So, but especially if you don't fuck with weird type comedy, if you don't want to get weird with it, it's not going to work for you. So just fascinating, depressing, weird, funny, all in one. And so it makes it a unique one that I definitely enjoyed, but finds itself in a weird zone where it's not going to be at the top of the list, definitely not the bottom of the list, but it's somewhere around here. It was available on HBO Max when I watched it, so it should still be on there. Number 7, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. This is one that came out very early this year. I know there was big whole issue with Warner Bros. And getting this movie released, and whole bunch of mess when it comes to Looney Tunes in general. I grew up with Looney Tunes being around, being known. I knew all the characters. I didn't specifically watch it religiously when I was young. I don't have a particular attachment to Looney Tunes as a property, but I thought this film was great. I thought it was really solid and just a lot of fun. I thought it was quite good. I was impressed. I didn't expect to have, I thought it was going to be indifferent on it maybe. I didn't have big expectations on it. Another one where I might not have watched it if I wasn't pushing myself to watch all these 2025 films. And for that, I'm grateful, for me pushing myself to do that, experiencing a bunch of different films that I wouldn't have otherwise. So this is perhaps one of them. And I thought it was just fun. Even the animation is so varied. They had a lot of fun with how they did different things, different styles. There's Daffy Duck twerks in it, and that is just something else. There's actually some really great writing sprinkled in throughout. It's not just like the animation is fun and wacky, which it is, and it's very varied, and it's got a big range of different styles mixed in, which keeps it fresh. It's not just that, but the writing I thought was solid as well. It's just really fun comedic writing, and it's smart. And there's a particular scene with Daffy Duck. He gives him a motivational speech at one point, which I thought was particularly effective with the writing. A lot of fun. Definitely recommended. It's on HBO Max, so check it out. Number 6, The Fox and the Hound. This is a 1981 film. This is one I did really kind of grow up on, which is ironic because I'm kind of, I say grow up on as in I grew up with it being around. Again, the reason I count this as being watched for the first time is because I didn't have memory of watching it in its entirety. I remember the concept of it, and I remember one distinct song from it, especially the Best of Friends song. That I remember distinctly from my childhood. But other than that, it really was like a fresh experience for me. And I thought it was lovely. I think it's a really great and definitely not a Disney film that's not talked about nearly enough. You almost never hear it talked about when in talking about just Disney films as a whole. So it's really cool that there's still Disney films out there that I'm kind of unearthing again for myself. Like a Treasure Planet, which are You like might have a bit of a cult following, but just are not appreciated in the same way that a Lion King is, or a Beauty and the Beast. It's not one of those. I will say the side characters didn't do much for me. You can check out my Letterboxd review. I go into detail on any of these films, but I'm kind of incorporating those thoughts into my thoughts here as well. The side characters didn't do much for me in this film. Sometimes Disney movies, they really like to pride themselves on their different side characters they incorporate. Almost all the classic Disney films, they always have these side animal characters, whatever it may be, that are like goofy. They're doing their own little thing on the side. For me, it didn't really work at all. The heart and all I really was invested in for the film is the relationship between Todd and Copper. Which is obviously, it's the main appeal of the film. Obviously, that's what they're going for. But it felt much more personal than a lot of other Disney films. I'll say that, and I think that's like a testament to it, and that it worked well in what it was trying to do. It's just a really effective tale about friendship, and it's a smaller scale story than a lot of Disney films. You're really in only a couple locations for the entire time, and it's just very much about this particular relationship and not much else beyond that. But yet it feels bigger than that at the same time, and I think it's done effectively. There's a lot of cuteness early on in the film, and there's more depth as it gets further into the film as well. But honestly, after watching it, I just got the impression after as soon as you finish the film, you can just kind of feel that it's something special. It feels like something special in the same way that like I said, maybe a Treasure Planet or a Goofy movie, these more understated films that still have a lot of heart to them in the Disney lexicon. Just like, man, that was something special. And I think it's the idea that the film's effective at what it was doing, and at the same time isn't a blockbuster hit like the names I mentioned before. So it's the combination of those two that makes it a special little sweet something that it feels a little more close to home than maybe the big names might. It's like Frozen. Everybody knows about Frozen, so it's like you might not have the same feeling after watching Frozen, even if it is a solid film. But I watched The Fox and the Hound, and like that was special. There's something special there. So yeah. Number 5, The Ballad of Wallace Island. Cool. This is another sweet film. There's a lot in this month in particular. Just happened to be, a lot of these were like randomly picked and what have you. This was just another one of my 2025 watch list going down, and it's just a sweet, more personal, kind of intimate story, and I love those. This one is a movie you have no expectations from. If you look at the poster, just look at the poster for The Ballad of Wallace Island and tell me that you're deeply fascinated in watching this film. I don't believe you if you say that. Like, I look at this and I'm like, okay, I don't know if I need to see that. So it does the film no justice. What you really get here is a film that's got a lot of heart to it. You may say this a lot about film, but that's what I love about films. Things that make you feel. Whether I'm like crying at the end of it, whether I'm overjoyed at watching it, laughing out loud, those are the things I love. And if you have a story that at the center of it, you have something really sweet, a meaningful message, and it comes across naturally without it feeling forced or anything, that's beautiful. You get a couple characters in here that just work so well. It's directed by James Griffith, so I want to give him a shout out, because I don't know if this is a film that will really get much recognition from like an awards season type of situation. I don't know. I doubt it. It's a much more, again, smaller scale. It's the whole film is set on this island, which that alone is just such a vibe to me. Think obviously very different vibe, but if you've seen Midnight Mass, that series, how they have that island, and it's like there's only a very small amount of people populating it, kind of disconnected from how you view society as a whole. It feels very, separate, and peaceful. If you take out the what actually happens in that film, it feels very peaceful in itself. That's kind of the vibe of this island. In fact, even less people than that, though, and you'll see barely any people in this film. Is a very small selection of people, and of course that lends itself to making it effective as well. It's really heartwarming. It's sweet. You see a musician coming over to this island, and you see like preconceived notions and certain attitudes being challenged, and it's just, I think it's fun and it's sweet. And man, Charles is such an easily likable character. He's just such a great. Let me get the actor's name for him. He does such a great job. Tim K. He's again the heart of this film and making it succeed, because the way that you instantly, he's so charming to me. I don't know if he is that way for everybody, with his like cringy little corny humor that he has, and his like very positive attitude that he has on everything. It's just something to be admired for sure. And yeah, this is just a cozy vibe of a movie, and it's sweet. That's all I gotta say. It's one of my favorites of the year for that reason. Number 4, The Muppet Movie. That's right, the original Muppet Movie. I finally watched it. Here's the thing, obviously I know of the Muppets. I grew up on Sesame Street. I didn't really watch a lot of other Jim Henson properties growing up, so I still have a lot of those to check out myself in my adult ass age. And it's amazing that this is still as good as it is. Having just watched it for the first time, the 1979 Muppet Movie. It's fantastic, and I think I might be rating it too low here at number 4. I think it could easily be number 1, number 2, at least for this month, and it could be one of my favorite movies, honestly, looking back on it. It's just an awesome movie. It has a lot of fun humor. This is really funny, and you wouldn't expect it, but I think it actually has some Naked Gun-esque humor to it. And as someone who loves the Naked Gun, it just hit for me. And obviously there's a built-in charm and humor to seeing just the Muppets doing the things that they're doing. Like, it never ceases to make me smile just seeing a Kermit walking or like bicycling. It's just a funny sight to me, that alone. And so let alone just doing the regular antics. It's great. It's a great film. Unironically, a great film. It's like, I have it as 4 stars on Letterboxd, but I could easily see it being 4.5, 5 stars. It's just, there's so much charm to it. And this inspired me to then start watching all of the Muppets films. I haven't watched all of them, but I'm going to be watching all of them. I watched the next one, which will be in next month's. But literally, it was just because I had the Muppets 2011. Because I had gotten in like a Blu-ray lot of a ton of them, so I put that on my watch list. And then that came up when I did my watch list shuffled. But I was like, how I do things. I don't want to do things half-assed. Let me go to the very first Muppet film instead. And now it's like, yeah, I want to watch all these. Absolutely, give me all that I can get of this. I'm like a big Muppets head now. You just unlocked a fandom for me that I didn't have before. I always appreciated the Muppets, but it was never like, I love the Muppets. I love the Muppets now. The movie doesn't show its ages at all. The comedy, the writing, and visually, it all translates so well. All these years later, was it 46 years later, almost 50 years later at this point? It's amazing, timeless, and there's a fun musicality to it as well. You can't go wrong. So, yeah, this one I'm gonna hold near and dear for some time, I feel. Number 3, The Birdcage. A 1996 film, so I was born the year that this film came out. So, it's first time I hadn't even heard of it until a series on this very channel that I do, where a random Letterboxd user decides what I watch I go to their 4 favorites and go through from there and pick a movie The first movie that I haven't seen, and I watch it. I hadn't even heard of The Birdcage. Honestly, it's crazy. I know, but I hadn't heard of it, and it's a Robin Williams film. I love Robin Williams, and I somehow never heard of it, and it's like one of my favorites now. I think it's so charming. It's so well done. The performances are great, especially with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. They kill it as the two like lead actors, both in their roles. It's very interesting because I watched Mrs. Doubtfire for the first time this year too, and that's Robin Williams dressing as a woman, and you get a very similar aspect in this, but with Nathan Lane. And I think originally, after looking into it after the fact, Robin Williams was supposed to be that character again, but since he had just done a role like that, he kind of urged Nathan Lane to be that role, and then it worked out that way. So really cool to see because Nathan Lane absolutely shines in this role. Robin Williams is great as well, but yeah, love them both. And Gene Hackman's there too as a really like smarmy, easily dislikable senator, of course. But this is again like one I don't think people talk nearly as much about as they should, because I even looked it up on YouTube. Like, are there reactions to this? Are there reviews? What's good? And there were a couple reactions, but not many. And this felt like a movie that just had tons of them. It should be like a huge fan base behind it. It's really lovely messaging. I think it's great, especially for the time where it was not nearly as commonplace. Even if this film were to release today, I would think the messaging was great. I love what they were doing. For them to release in 1996, it's awesome. And the writing is really smart and it's heartwarming. I really enjoyed the film. Everything except for just one character really pissing me off the whole time. I'll say that. Val, he was pissing me off and he's very frustrating. But it's effective in that way too, I guess. But yeah, it's very much shades of Mrs. Doubtfire, but with another, even more of a layer to it. I feel like there's a little more layer of depth. But yeah, a great film. I watched that on Prime Video, so I think it's still available there. Number 2, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn. Check this film out. This is a documentary, and I just like completely adored it after watching it. Like, this is something truly special. Look, I really enjoy documentaries. There's a lot of great documentaries. More than ever, we're overexposed to a level of great documentary that we haven't been before. You know, it's like hundreds of new documentaries a year. Netflix obviously expounded on that more than ever. You know, Netflix became known for having so many documentaries. But this is really cool. It's directed by a Norwegian filmmaker, Benjamin Ree. And so I'll just tell the description of it. This is what hooked me as a gamer to it. It says, the secret life of a young World of Warcraft gamer is vividly reimagined when his online friends contact his family after his death. And so you go into this film knowing that he's going to pass away, unfortunately. That's not like a surprise of the film or anything. That's the crux of it. That's the setup, essentially. Is that unfortunately he deals with a condition, and he had an untimely passing, of course, and his parents were just under the impression he had no friends, and they were very sad that, like, because he only wanted to play his game. You know, that was like all he wanted to do was play his game, and he just didn't go out. So he felt like he was not getting the friends or the experiences that he should. And so they were sad about that, only to discover that he had like touched and impacted so many people online, and he had so many friends online through this game that they thought he was playing like in lieu of making real connections, and just a whole world of connections he had made. And it was really sweet. It was so impactful to me, like just seeing how many people were genuinely touched by his actions, getting to see their different perspectives on everything he was involved with, on how everything unfolded, learning more about him. and how he was still so private about everything because, there's like an insecurity that came with his condition, and he didn't want to put that out there. And it's just fascinating. And I think it was a beautiful documentary. And not only that, just take the events and the story that's told there alone, that's beautiful, but the way they did the documentary was even more beautiful. I thought it was really touching how they reached out to everybody, and that's a whole big part of the documentary. But at the same time, they had this big portion of the documentary done in the World of Warcraft animation style, like kind of telling his story on World of Warcraft and different specific things that happened. I thought that was a really beautiful touch. Elevated the film way more than already was an amazing story that was being told that I think deserves to be told. And I think it's one that resonates with a lot of people, would resonate with a lot of people, I suspect. And especially as a gamer, like, it's one of those things where, especially growing up, it's devalued, and your parents might not understand it. And especially as someone who's made a lot of connections online, it totally hit home for me. Absolutely. It's a beautiful documentary, one of my favorites ever, and easily one of my favorites I've watched this year. And I'll always remember this film fondly as well, and I'll continue to push it because I feel like it's one that people don't know about as well. I just stumbled upon it, and I'm glad to have it. It came out in 2024, and so I would absolutely encourage you to check it out if that sounds at all interesting to you. And here we go. Number 1 for September 2025 is One Battle After Another. Look, this one's not locked in for sure because, like I said, the other one, Remarkable Life of Evelyn, is like so special to me. I easily could have had that number 1, and it's arguably could be. I'm putting this at number 1 for now, One Battle After Another. I thought it was an excellent film, no doubt about it. It's being universally just acclaimed across the board. When I saw the trailer, I never thought it was going to be anything that amazing. I didn't have these high expectations for it at all. And then watching it and seeing all the reception for it makes so much sense. And it went from like not on my radar to completely, like, easily the front runner for Best Picture and probably infinite awards. But Leonardo DiCaprio's performance is really good in this. It's one of his best, probably. I'll say that having not seen a lot of his, actually, a lot of the films I have to watch happen to be some of his acclaimed performances. But yeah, it's so good. I actually intended to watch this again to really reaffirm how I feel about it coming into this video. The past couple of days, I've thought about it, and just like, it's hard to, when it's a 3-hour movie like this, to really find the time to set aside the time for it, especially for a rewatch. So, but I definitely intend to, within the next week or so, watch it again to really kind of like cement how I feel about it more, especially considering, it's up there, potentially my favorite of the year so far. I want to make sure that's the case before I lock it in on like any lists or anything that I do wrapping up the year. And so, yeah, that was my reaction after watching. I was like, man, that might have been better than Sinners, better than Weapons, better than some of my favorites this year. And that's saying something because I liked those a lot. But it just really felt like it's just like put all the competition aside. Like, it's way ahead now. There are still, obviously, I have a big list of movies from this year to watch, so it's nowhere near a guarantee. But I think as far as awards season, feels like it almost, even if it's not personally for me. Though right now it is. Right now it is my number 1 out of, I think I've watched 40 movies that have come out this year so far, and I have it at number 1 tentatively. And look, I said Leo delivered an all-time performance, and he did. But I do want to shout out Tiana Taylor, who delivered a great performance, and Chase Infinity, who delivered an amazing debut performance. What a name, Chase Infinity, by the way. That's a star's name right there. But she out of nowhere, this is her debut performance, and it was like on the biggest movie of the year, perhaps. Wow, that's big, and she killed it. Sean Penn is really good at being a super dislikable guy, so he sells that very well. Benicio del Toro was awesome in as well. Like, there's a great cast all around. It got such a unique, fun energy to it, to where it's like a long film, but it flies by. The pacing is incredible. It's super engaging, unlike a lot of films I've watched this year. Even some of my favorites, I have issues with some pacing here or there, and this one just like knocks it out of the park. You're in from minute one till the end, and yeah, I definitely want to watch it again and just try to know for sure, is this my favorite film of the year so far? It might just be. Thank you for watching. Sound off below with your thoughts on any of these films, if you've seen them. What are some of your favorite films you watched this month? I'd love to hear it. As always, I'm welcome to any suggestions. I've got hundreds of movies on my watch list, always waiting to be watched. And it's like I'm making no progress because, say you watch 5 movies on your watch list. I almost always have like 10 movies added by the time I do that. So it's a never ending thing, but that's the beauty of there being so many amazing films. And I'm up to 130 films watched this year, which is not even close. It's by far the most I've watched in a year, and the year's not even over yet. So we're gonna have a couple more installments of this for the year, and it's gonna be a big undertaking trying to rank all of these in some way, and at least try to come up with I think I'm gonna do a big tier list, I think, at the end of the year, like I always do. Though it's going to be infinitely more hard. It's going to be hours long going through and making a tier list of all these films with a little more hindsight, a little time removed from the earlier ones in the year, and having the grand scheme of the year to put on a tier list. That'll be a daunting task, to be sure, but I also do think I want to make a top 10 list of 2025 films as well. I would like to do that, and obviously I'm making an effort to watch as many of them as possible this year so I can be as comprehensive as possible with that, and not be like a couple months later like, actually I have 5 other films I would have swapped in there that I didn't happen to watch this year. But yeah, that's it. Subscribe to the channel for more on film, television, and reality TV, and take care.